Alright, so today I'm going to be going over another no backlight repair. This is a pretty annoying one. It's been one that's been driving me nuts for a while. I'm trying something different with the video. I'm trying out UT videos. Here's one thing about Open Broadcaster. If you try to use 444 or 422 capture, it only works if you use the built-in codec. So let me just show you some preferences in Open Broadcaster here so I can show you what I mean. So if I'm in Open Broadcaster, right, and I go to Settings, when I go to output, in advanced, if I choose, instead of NV12, which is 420, if I choose 444, and I go to output, none of these options, and I do mean none of them, will work. It just is, it's inherently broken. So yet, if I go to simple, if I go over here and go standard instead of advanced, I can then record using X264 and it works fine. But that mode doesn't allow me to output audio in a codec of my choosing, so it's a bit of a pain in the ass. And if you use RGB over here, it winds up using 5 times the CPU and the file size is I444, blah, blah. So I'm trying this in NV12, which is 420, a little bit lower quality, and UT video, which I can directly import into Vegas rather than having a transcode. So if this works, I'll wind up with less CPU usage, less likelihood of shit going out of sync, and above all, it'll just be easier all around. So let me know if you think the microscope quality looks crampier in this video. I know that YouTube doesn't even do anything over 420, so for me, recording 422 uncompressed is probably, admittedly, going a little bit overboard for this kind of channel. But anyway, well, I'm hoping that at least improves workflow a little bit. You know, maybe able to get more stuff out if I can edit it quicker, and I'm not using up ridiculous amounts of drive space. So anyway, this is the backlight circuit. So what's going on with this board that's really pissing me off is that I get backlight for a quick second when it turns on, and then it turns off. And it's a board that I've fixed backlight issues on in the past. Yeah, I know. I'm probably going to get like 90 trolls. I knew your repairs didn't last. Yes, everybody deals with warranty. Even me. So, I have to go through and figure out why this doesn't want to work. But first, I have to figure out why it doesn't want to... This is literally a board from hell. It's dead. I know what I said. I know I said it started with no backlight, but it's fucking dead. So let's just go over something real quick here with the world's worst troubleshooting camera angle. PP3V42 is supposed to be 3.42 volts. That's a power rail responsible for the one-wire circuit, which is responsible for a green light in the charger. PP3V42 is 1.6 volts. 1.6. Now, input to the circuit is 16 volts. The resistor that's supposed to limit current going into the circuit in case of a fault, they're giving me 16 on one side, 3 on the other. Which means that before I even started, literally before I even fucking started troubleshooting the damn board, it died. Like, ugh. This is just gonna be one of those days. This is gonna be one of those days. I'm gonna spend all day on one fucking piece of crap. Alright, so let's put this aside for now. Put it aside so out of sight, out of mind. In my tiny little office in the chair that's sitting next to me. And do one thing at a time. This is something that's worth getting when it comes to these things in life. So many people, they get up, they see a problem, and then another problem, and they guess... This is one thing I've noticed while I've been trying to get a trainee. So I've been saying for a while now that I want to replace myself at my business, and one of the things that just gets me about trainees is they screw up one thing, and it's like... or they don't get something, and then it's... It's the look. It's always the look. It's always the look. That, you know, that just discouragement. And I try to do it in a reasonable fashion. I try to kind of feed people. Like, I try to feed people these little successes. But even if you feed them little successes, like the first time they fail, it's this huge discouragement. It's annoying. And you can tell. Which one of these resistors is the blown one? Which one? You or you? You or you? One of these friggin' days, but I know, like this sucks, of course. I mean, it's an issue that I haven't had in a long time. And to start off the issue, starting off, we have a totally unrelated issue that has nothing to do with anything that I've done. Something just decides to blow just to be an asshole, you know? And what, like, am I gonna go, God, Nope. I'm going to solve it. Not only am I going to solve it, I'm going to solve it on camera and have this board be made humble. Old country way, as Iron Sheik would say. Iron Sheik always used to like to say that he would make something humble. Old country way. I try to fix boards the same way that Iron Sheik would wrestle. Yeah, I know there was a hair there, but I moved it out of the way. So, okay. This board will be made humble. As humble as can be. Oh my God, Lewis, are you pulling a resistor off of a downer board? Yep. Yes, repair police, come get me. Yes. Melt, you piece of shit. Excellent. Go in a place, you piece of shit. Excellent. Elbow. Bam. Factory, motherfucker. Now, are we back to where we started? We're back to where we started. It's not dead. Now we go over this backlight bullshit. Alright. Now we set ourselves up for some quiet and also some thinking. So when we look up here at the PDF, now the issue that I have with this board is that the backlight will come on for a second and then turn off, or should give me half backlight, and all sorts of really silly, odd things that don't make any sense in the context of what I'm used to fixing. So I'd have the board out of the computer, I'm going to plug the screen into the computer, and I'm going to have the board flipped over so that I can measure at different parts in the backlight circuit and show you what's going on. So, without further ado, I'm going to turn it on, and we're going to measure what's going on at different points. So one of the first points that I'm really interested in is I'm interested in measuring a backlight output. I want to know the voltage I'm getting on output because that's going to set the stage for all my future troubleshooting. All of my theories are going to be based on what I see at output. So first things first, I have to wait for this POS to turn on. Because all these machines, when they do an RTC reset, they turn on, off, and then finally on again. All the 2013, 14, 15 errors. Alright, so it's on, and backlight output is nothing. Backlight fuse is 8 volts on one side and 8 volts on the other. So most likely it doesn't even see that there is a screen connected to the computer. So we're going to try again and just make sure that it didn't come unplugged. I'm going to unplug the unplug it, turn it back in, plug it back in. And let's see. So if you have 0 volts on backlight output and there's not a break in the line, usually what it means is that this transistor over here is not opening. And it's not opening because it doesn't have... because this voltage divider is not working. So this voltage divider over here is going to put lower voltage on the gate than on the source, which will allow power to flow. Now this voltage divider will only work if it has a path to ground. This voltage divider will only have a path to ground if these two transistors, which are N-channel, have voltage in the gate, which allows them to open. I've gone over this in many previous videos. If that's confusing, go over my videos on how a transistor works. Now, this signal over here, EDP backlight enable, is not going to work. It's not going to pass anything. It's not going to do anything if it doesn't see a panel. So now I have 17 volts on backlight output. And that gives me thing is, what this tells me is that it tried to boost. It put some honest effort in to try to boost, and then it failed. I'm kind of curious as to why it failed. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to check over here at backlight enable. Is backlight enable supposed to be around 2.7, 2.5, 2.7 volts? And let's see what we get over here. So backlight enable should be, I get 2.8 volts. All right, now we check backlight PWM. Backlight PWM is going to be what sets brightness. So I'm interested in seeing that, because even if it's being told to enable and turn on, if it's not giving me brightness, a brightness signal, then it's not going to turn on the light. If you turn the brightness all the way down on your keyboard, it's not going to turn on regardless of the fact that the machine's on. So let's just open the board view here. I love this new open board view software. It's so awesome. I was so cheap. I wasn't going to pay for this. Like, I feel bad saying that. It's just a lot of people messaged me before this thing was made, and they said, I would like to code this. What do you think this is worth? And it's like, I know that I've complained about it a million times, but it's just one of those things where I would just rather curse than pay 100 or 200 or 500 for board view software, so I never did. But this, now that it's finally released, I love it. All right, so let's see. So backlight enable is present, but backlight PWM is set to 0. Now, I want you to think about this. I want you to think about this real hard. What do you think is going to set the backlight PWM to be low? What do you think is going to tell this to have the lowest brightness at all times? One of the things that's going to tell it to have the lowest brightness at all times is something called the SMC lid signal. So the SMC lid signal is a signal that tells the machine that you have closed it. When you close the lid on the laptop, it turns itself off. It doesn't, well, I mean, it doesn't, it turns the backlight off because you've closed the lid. And the lid, tells it to go to sleep. And there's this, let's see. Now, in the old schematics, it would tell you which voltage for SMC lid means what. But they don't do that anymore. So let's find an older schematic, because in the older ones, it'll make a little bit more sense. So this is one for an older MacBook Pro. If I keep searching around on the SMC lid signal, here we go. So eventually, you'll get to a little part of the document like this. When the lid is lid open, SMC lid 3.4 volts. Lid close, SMC lid is lower than 0.5 volts. Okay, that's easy enough. All right, so let's see. SMC underscore lid. Where can I find the lid switch? Okay, I can find it right over here on 1, 2, 3, 4, fuck me. Okay, this resistor, SMC lid. So I'm going to measure that signal with the machine half out. Oh my Jesus, this sucks. Okay. Can I reach my microscope out this far? So I have the machine over here. Of course, right out of reach. Yeah. See, I have the machine turned around so that I could have the screen plugged in, but also measure it. Oh, that's not a nice sound. Poor fan. I'm sorry, fan. I'm sorry. All right. Can we get you under the microscope? Of course, you're just out of reach, you motherflower. All right. Let's see. Okay, so we're looking for 1, 2, 3. We're looking for the 6th resistor. And of course, it's too low as well. Go figure. All right, I'm going to lift the microscope up a little on here. You may ask why I got rid of that articulating one. Well, I didn't get rid of it. I use it at the other station for the students. And the reason I don't use it for myself is because it moves back and forth a lot and it makes me dizzy. The whole idea with the articulating stand is that it's very easy to move around without having to, de-tighten things. So SMC lid is a straight up 0 volts, which means that, now this is interesting to me. Actually, no, it's not. I didn't have my ground touched. I'm on crack. SMC lid is 3.233 volts. But it should be, I don't know. I feel like that should be higher. 3.22. Something pulling down the lid switch? You know what I'm going to try here? I'm going to try my own DCN board. Just out of curiosity, because the SMC lid switch usually comes from the DCN board. So I'm kind of curious if I get a different result when I use my own DCN board. So the DCN board is a board on the left side of the machine that is, on this model, what's going to read the screen. When I say read the screen, what I mean is that when you close the lid, when you close the screen, there's a magnet in it, and it trips a switch inside the DCN board that tells the machine, hey, the user has closed the lid, so then it knows to assert that switch, the SMC lid, assert that signal, that SMC lid signal, which is then going to put the computer to sleep. So I'm kind of curious, am I troubleshooting a backlight circuit issue when in reality I should be troubleshooting an SMC lid issue? Yep. I have a light. So I was troubleshooting the wrong thing. Not only do I have a light, but I have a pretty light. You want to see my pretty light? Check out my pretty light. Oh. Well, as you can see, the light kind of went off because I was bragging about it. Okay, so maybe that's not it. Seriously? Really? 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 Okay, so the light dimmed. I wonder, did it dim because it hasn't had activity in a while? Or, well, first thing I want to do here is let's see what the SMC lid voltage is with my different DCN board, just to see if anything changed. Silly curiosity. Call me crazy. So if I were to measure SMC lid voltage with my different DCN board, yeah, with a different DCN board, SMC lid is a straight up 3.412. It's not 3.2. So it's a little bit different on some of these machines. So over here, it says on the schematic for the older machine, lid open, SMC lid 3.42. When the lid is closed, SMC lid is going to be below 0.5. But in reality, even if the signal is, even if SMC lid is 3.2, it still causes me to have intermittency in things like backlight. Yeah, so I'm still at 3.412. Now, I'm just going to plug in the keyboard and all that good stuff with this different DCN board and see what I get. Okay, and as you can see here, got myself a light. Got myself a light. So the original issue with this board, which was repaired off camera a long time ago, was the backlight circuit was burned by liquid. But now the backlight circuit was physically burned. I fixed that. A long time later, it then comes back with a no backlight. Now I thought, man, could I have fucked up repairing the backlight circuit? Maybe I screwed up fixing the backlight circuit. Maybe there's something wrong with what I fixed. Of course there's nothing wrong with what I fixed. I'm perfect. I'm waiting for my ceiling to fall on me. If there's any moment for God to cause the ceiling to fall on me right now, would be the perfect opportune time. As I say that, I shouldn't say shit like that out loud. I'm going to get struck by lightning. But the whole idea here was that something else, a secondary issue existed, which then caused a symptom of the primary issue. So the secondary issue didn't re-cause the primary issue. It didn't cause the backlight circuit to become burned again. But the symptom of the backlight circuit being burned is the fact that I had no backlight. Now, the SMC lid switch being lower than it's supposed to be also causes no backlight. So I went back to my primary defect before I started thinking, wait a second. What would cause the PWM signal to be low? Again, this is all about following logic. So I go back through my backlight circuit. And I see, all right, the enable signal is there. It has the capability to boost. I saw you go up to 25 volts, so I know that this has the ability to boost. It has the ability to boost, but it's not boosting. It's being told to enable, but it's not enabling, but the PWM signal is missing. And when you Google LP8550 and you find the data sheet, you'll see that PWM is going to be what sets display brightness. Again, when I first saw Bickel-Pum, I don't know what the fuck a Bickel-Pum is, sounds like some foreign porn. But when I searched for LP8550, I get a data sheet from Texas Instruments that says that backlight PWM is going to be a PWM that sets the brightness, So I check, and there's nothing there. So I know that the machine has the capability to boost. I know my circuit has the ability to boost. For some reason, the system is telling the backlight driver to lower the backlight voltage to the lowest possible state. So why would it do that? And then I have to think to myself, this is where you have to be attentive. This is because this is one of the things that I tell people who come here. There are some people that want, they really need to know that when there's no backlight, I replace this chip and it works again. They think that this is what it is, and I wind up fucking traumatizing them when I walk them through these repairs. You have to become a detective. So my backlight circuit has the ability to boost. Check. It's being told to turn on. Enable. Check. It's receiving voltage at the V-in pin of the backlight driver. Check. But the section that sets the brightness is all the way down. What in the machine would cause the brightness to be all the way down? What if I close the lid? And then we look up the lid switch. What's the lid supposed to be? Oh, SMC lid is supposed to be 3.42 when it's open. And for some reason, it's 3.2. Now, again, the manual here, it says that when SMC lid is below 0.5 volts, then it will assume that the lid is closed. But in reality, even if the SMC lid signal is much higher than 0.5 volts, thank you, bullshit Apple documentation, fuck you, I would love to see grade A under A fixed boards again. I would pay, like, if his Patreon had like $5,000 a month and it was fixed boards, there's a good chance I'd consider giving it, because like I think that would be the funniest shit in the world, just watching those two little stick figures go through all this. But yeah, the Apple documentation says 3.42 volts means that the lid is open, and below 0.5 volts means the lid is closed. But in reality, if the lid is even off by 8% it will screw with the system. The system was not going to sleep. It wasn't going to sleep. But the lid switch being low is causing the backlight to go iffy. So I think what's going on here is even if the system is still in an awake state, because whatever it is that detects whether or not you go to sleep wants to see it at 0.5 or below, I think the backlight circuit is set up to where the PWM signal is going to go down if it sees that the lid switch is even off 3% from where it's supposed to be. So yeah, literally, bad DC inboard, fucking up with my backlight circuit and wasting my morning. Fuck you, mate. Man, I would pay so much money to watch grade A under A fix a motherboard. That would be like the entertainment for the century for me. Anyway, with that said, I hope you learned something.